All right, Shalom. First off, I'm going to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father's true name, Yahweh Shai being the name of His only begotten Son. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles, a great millstone, who rule well and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. All right, this is the brother Mashah Mayum, one of the men here with the GMS branch out here in the morning camp. Back again with another lesson through the Spirit, and pretty much going into 1 Samuel, the 3rd chapter, all right, which is what inspired this lesson. And I'm gonna actually get it in the blue letter because I wanted to read it in the NLT. But and Lord's will, as we get this precept and I continue to expound and make sense. But this is 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 1, and it reads, "And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision." Right, and I want to read it in the NLT. It says, "Meanwhile, the boy Samuel served the Lord by assisting Eli. Now in those days, messages from the Lord were very rare, and visions were quite uncommon." Okay, so the first verse is telling us, that, the Lord's messages and his visions, okay, he didn't, reveal that a lot, right? As it says, it says it was quite uncommon, right? And it's Lord's will, it ties on to the topic of the lesson. But continuing on in the KJV, and it reads, "And it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of the Most High went out into the temple of the Lord, where the ark of the Most High was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli and said, Here am I, for thou callest me. And he said, I called thee not, lie down again. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again Samuel, and Samuel arose and went to Eli. And Eli said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called thee not, my son, lie down again." Right? Verse 7, Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. Okay, so like we read in verse 1, okay, he didn't know that this was the Lord, okay, and this was actually the Lord's voice, okay, and the Lord sending him a message, right? Speaking about Samuel, verse 8, "And the Lord called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child." Okay, so Eli understood and knew that, this was the Lord speaking to him, right? Verse 9, "Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth." Verse 11, "And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, that which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle." All right, and then he goes on to deliver him the message, okay, which is when Samuel starts to prophesy, right? Because after he was told what was going to happen to the Lord, okay, he told it on to Eli, right? But which prophesy basically means to say before, But the point is, him hearing the Lord's voice, okay, and hearing the Lord call upon him the third time, right? And the point of the lesson is, it took the Lord calling him, or it took him, okay, until the third time to hear what that it was the Lord, right? And just applying it in a spiritual aspect, in different situations in our walk, okay, the Lord could be speaking to us, all right, but we got to have our ears open, okay, and understand when the Lord is speaking to us, right, to be able to know that it's the voice of the Lord, okay. From this precept, I want to go to Job chapter 33 and verse 14, all right, because as it says in the book of Job, it says, Job chapter 33 and verse 14, "For the Most High speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth it not." Okay, so a lot of the times, the Lord, for the the men of the Lord, the ones that have been called into this truth, right? We know the Lord is dealing with us, okay, and sometimes he can speak once, yea, twice, right? But it'll take the Lord might have to get your attention, by speaking the same, you hearing something, okay, or something being, you know, whether it be a message, okay, that the Spirit might be on a brother to say something, more than once, all right, or it could be a sign, or it could even be a dream, right, or a vision, right. But those are all ways the Lord is speaking to us, and we just have to have the spiritual ears, okay, and eyes to see and understand that it's the Lord, And basically, the point of this lesson is, even within our walk, right, you might be in certain situations, and the Lord might be chastising you, in the same situation about a certain thing, for Him to get your attention and for it to click, on what He wants you to do, because let's also get because like it says in Malachi chapter 3 and verse 3, right? Let's get that real quick. Because ultimately, once again, this is what the Lord is, to the ones who have returned. Okay, this is Malachi chapter 3 and verse 3, and it reads, "And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness." Okay, so it said what? He shall sit as a refiner, okay, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and the ones who have returned, okay, spiritually we're sons of Levi. Why? Because what? We are have been joined back unto the Lord in a spiritual sense, right? Of course, you got actual brothers, the 12,000 that are from the tribe of Levi, but applying it in a spiritual sense, right? But the point is, the Lord is going to chastise and purify us through the fire, okay? In different situations that you might be in, it might take you being in that situation more than once, okay, for the Lord to get your attention, right? Because let's also get let's get the book of Hebrews chapter 12. And jumping down to verse 6, and it reads, "For whom the Most High loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth." Right, So if the Most High is dealing with you, okay, He's going to chastise you in many different ways. Okay, it could be through rebuke. All right, the brothers giving you rebuke. It could be through different lessons. The Spirit, hopping on, the Spirit hopping on the men of the Lord. Okay, to deliver the same message. Okay, you might come across many videos or lessons going into the same thing. Okay, but that's the Lord. What? That's the Lord giving that advice. Okay, or you might be chastised about the same thing more than once, right? But it's the Lord getting your attention in different ways. Okay, and that's the point of the lesson. Basically, is what? Hearing the Lord speaking and trying to get our attention. Verse 7, "If ye endure chastening, the Most High dealeth with you as with sons, for what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not?" Right. So being in this truth, being in this walk, all right, if you're being chastised, hey, the Most High loves you as a father, okay, or Salakia, the Most High loves you as a son, okay, and that's something we got to keep in mind too, because like brothers say, if you're not going through anything, doesn't have to be something crazy or major once again, but if you're not going through anything, then something's wrong, right? And I'm not pushing this, to say, go out there and get yourself in a situation, but just, giving that, that balance, basically understanding the precept, all right? The Lord is going to chastise you in some way, shape, or form, okay? Brothers are going to have their own tailor-made hell, right? And the Lord is going to speak to us in different ways, to get our attention, right? Because from here, let's also get Luke chapter 1 and verse 70. All right, because I mentioned, it might be a brother doing a lesson, okay, or speaking, through the Spirit, right? Because what does the precept say? This is Luke chapter 1 and verse 70, and it reads, "As he spake by the mouth of his prophets, which have been since the world began." Okay, so the Lord speaks through the mouth of his prophets, and brothers doing different things and lessons. Okay, a brother might advise you and give you counsel on different things, right? It might not even be something you ask, right? But two brothers, brought up something to you, okay, and that could be the Lord giving you that trying to get your attention. Look, you might want to check that out, right? So just different ways, and understanding, when the Lord is trying to, correct us, all right, whether it be through the fire, okay, or whether it be, through speaking through brothers, okay, many different ways, Let's also get Second Chronicles, chapter 30 and verse 8. This is Second Chronicles chapter 30 and verse 8, and it reads, Now be ye not stiff-necked, as your fathers were, but yield yourselves unto the Lord, and enter into his sanctuary, which he hath sanctified forever, and serve the Lord your power, that the fierceness of his wrath may turn away from you. Okay? But the point is what? It said, now be ye not stiff-necked, as your fathers were. Okay? And dealing with, that generation that came out of Egypt, okay, they were stiff-necked. That's why the Lord had them what? Wander, okay, in the wilderness for 40 years, right? So that's them being what? Chastised over and over again, or corrected over and over again, okay? Because what? Because of being stiff-necked and not hearing the Lord's voice, okay? Or the Lord, what the Lord is trying to, or what the Lord wants you to hear, because the Lord isn't trying to do anything. He's giving the message. Now, whoever takes heed, all right, is going to be, whoever takes heed, okay, the Lord will have mercy on, but whoever doesn't take heed, and then, they're going to be judged, right? Because like it also says, let's get the book of Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 10. And it reads, A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. Okay? And this is another thing we got to understand too. It says a reproof, right? So reproof can come through brothers. All right? Reproof can come in the Salakia. The reproof can come in the form of chastisement, all right, in different situations that we go through, right? But it says a reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. So we want that reproof to enter into us, okay, and we want to perceive and understand that the Lord is speaking to us, And once again, using that account with Samuel, not saying that Samuel was a wicked individual, but just using it in a spiritual sense, because like we read that Job, it said, the Most High speaketh once, yet twice, But right, and that generation, obviously the stripes didn't enter into him, all right, or should I say, Salakia, not the stripes, but as it says, okay, the reproof, right? That reproof, it said they were stiff-necked, okay, and that's not how we want to be, right? From here, let's get the book of Proverbs chapter 3 and jumping down to verse 5. And it reads, Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths, right? So we want to acknowledge the Lord in all our ways, okay? Verse 7, Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil, okay? So you don't want to, lean upon your own understanding, okay? To where you think you're doing is right all the time, okay? But you want to what? Take heed unto the counsel that, the brothers around, or the men of the Lord, the brothers, give, okay? Even the message that the Lord is getting across to his men, all right? Because a lot of times, the Lord, that's exactly what the Lord does. We just read in Luke 1:70, okay? A lot of times, a message the Lord wants to get across, He'll put the Spirit upon, the elders and the apostles to speak it. And you'll notice many different videos being done on the same thing, right? So, but that's the point, just dealing with, taking heed and understanding when the Lord is speaking unto us. But that's the point when I hope, Salakia. Want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles, a great millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.